Good morning, guys. Thank you for joining us. You're the last panel this morning. Last but not least, we've kept this great discussion for the end. So today is all about talking about career preparation. We've already had two fantastic discussions on different aspects of this. And the one that we just had was on how to prepare for the professional world. So great segue now to talk to you guys about what you have done as athletes since you've transitioned from your sporting career. So I'll be moderating the panel, and I'm going to start with introduction from each one of you. Mariya, do you want to go first? Just a quick intro.
Sure. My name is Mariya. Excuse me. My name is Mariya Koroleva. I am a two-time Olympian in the sport of synchronized swimming. I retired after the 2016 Olympics and then became what I like to call a regular person and with a regular job. So I currently work at Visa. I am finishing up their rotation program for Olympic and Paralympic athletes. I've been here for 2 years and I'm now in the process of figuring out what's next, whether that's at Visa or somewhere else. So excited to be here and to have this conversation.
Thank you, Mariya. And Mariya was actually we've known each other for a while because I've been her coach, and so I'm really excited to have you in this conversation. Shel, do you want to go next with your introduction?
Yeah, hello, my name is Shel Thompson. I am a footwear developer for Nike, basketball promo, and I came into Nike 2 years ago. I'm a Texas Tech graduate and a two-sport athlete, basketball and track. I played 6 years in the WNBA, 5 years overseas, won a WNBA championship in 2004, and super excited to be here today.
Thank you, Shel. We have two of you from Nike. So Kristen, do you want to go next?
Sure. Good morning. I am Kristen Rasmussen, and I also am working at Nike. I'm the Global Business Coordinator for Purpose Product. Before that, I played in the WNBA for 10 years, played 12 years overseas, and I'm a graduate of Michigan State University. Also really excited to be here today.
Thank you, Kristen. And finally, Cody, tell us about your journey.
Hey, I'm Cody Ferraro, a Long Island, New York native. I'm an entrepreneur, graduated from Lehigh University and played lacrosse there. And I started the company called NX Athlete that connects, that connects student athletes with businesses who want to hire them. Since then, we have acquired 2 other companies to help the student athlete journey as they progress, and excited to be part of this conversation. Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for these intros, and it's great to have you from 3 different sports and different backgrounds. We're going to jump in right into this conversation. What I'd like to hear from you first is a little bit about the program that you come from. So this is more so for Mariya, Shel, and Kristen. And perhaps we can start with you, Mariya, if you can tell us about the Visa program, how you found it, and how does that look like, this rotational program for Olympians?
Yeah, sure. So Visa is, well, I definitely know that they were the first Olympic sponsor, and I think the first, big company to create an actual program for Olympic and Paralympic athletes. Really, the goal of the program is to help these elite athletes kind of transition the skills that they've learned playing sports into the business world, which is exactly what I was looking for. The program is still fairly new. I think we're in our 5th year maybe, but it's gotten a lot of great traction, and actually was just extended to the NFL as well, because Visa sponsors the NFL, and now we have a whole program for NFL athletes to also come in and be able to put their skills, to transfer their skills into the business world. So the way that it works, it's very similar to any new grad rotational program, and actually our program here at Visa is was kind of put in parallel with the new grad development program. So we come in, we do 2 to 4 6-month rotations. So for the new grad program, they are required to do 4 rotations. So it's a maximum of 2 years. And then they, get a full-time placement after. The difference with our program is that we could roll off the program early into a full-time placement. So you could do 2 rotations, equaling 1 year. You could do 3, you could do all 4 if you want. And really the goal here is, you come in, they really want you to get experience at different parts of the company to really see where you see yourself, working ultimately. Ultimately, I came in kind of with a one-track mind of wanting to do marketing and sponsorship. And so I've kind of been able to curate my rotations. I've done all 4. So I've been able to curate my rotations to be in different parts of marketing. So I've done product marketing, I've done client, I've done sponsorship. So it's really a great way to see where you fit in within the company. And also just to kind of fast track your career at a company like Visa. And, you don't have to have any payments experience. I certainly didn't, but you learn a lot about the space, and it's really quite fascinating. So, like I said, the program has kind of expanded now, and now there's a separate, part for NFL athletes. I know also we're trying to adopt it globally. There's something going on in Europe currently for women's soccer, and we're trying to expand it to Asia Pacific as well. So there's been a lot of really great feedback from the associates and also from business leaders. They really love having elite athletes, join the company, which I think, us athletes have been saying that for years. So yeah, and if anybody has any questions about the program specifically, feel free to shoot me a message. I'd be happy to help out.
Great, thanks for sharing, Mariya. And I completely relate to your story, because I was part of a program like this in France back in the 2000 era. It wasn't quite as formal as what you did, but certainly gives you an ability to have an in-depth understanding of different professions and department within a bigger company. Shel and Kristen, would you please talk to us a little bit about the Nike WIN program? Maybe any of you want to get started?
Sure. So Nike decided to collaborate with the WNBA and offer women the opportunity to come in and learn about the corporate world. So it's going from court to corporate, and it is a 2-year program where selected women come in and they put you in a spot that they feel that not only does the company need, but something that you would gain understanding and knowledge from. And then after the 2 years in the program, they would really like to have you stay, but it's up to you and I guess, Shel, I would say your abilities and your desires if you want to continue, but it is up to us to then be in the corporation and apply for where we want our next steps to be.
Shel, do you want to add?
No, I think that's well said. Yeah, just being able to really build upon our strengths and find those areas, building the career path and where we see ourselves in the future. But ultimately, understanding that athletes are leaders, so giving us the opportunity to come in and really get in position of leadership throughout the company.
And if I'm correct, the 2 of you were part of the first cohort that joined Nike in this program?
Correct, yeah.
Fantastic. Cody, we're going to pass it on to you. I'd like for you to tell us a little bit more about how you came up with an ex-athlete and, what are other companies, we're not talking about 2 giant company that are already operating in the sports world, but from your experience, what are other companies that are really keen on recruiting athletes?
Absolutely. So I guess the origin story starts out with the student athlete conundrum that most of us go through when we hear that our season's done our senior year. Okay, what's next is the question. So every athlete, student athlete, actually asked themselves at a certain point, and I was no different. I just wanted to see if there was a market for student athletes in the workforce. And this panel would probably be my best advocates in saying that there is a large market for student athletes in the workforce. However, we have a second conundrum in the time conundrum. The student athletes didn't necessarily have the time for the internships, the job fairs, because they were pretty much during practice time or during travel time for a game. So we decided to challenge ourselves to figure out, hey, listen, how do we connect student athletes with employers that value them 365 days a year, 7 days a week? So there is no constraint on time or opportunity. And we decided to come up with a platform that connects those two parties for the benefit of both of them on a simple, easy to use platform. So as we started to progress with that, we found pretty large adoption from corporate America, and then also from student athletes because of the simplicity of the platform. And we decided to increase our engagement with the student athlete through education that is being sponsored by certain companies who want to get these student athletes into their pipeline, through education, through companies, through company culture, and a bunch of other different things that companies are really focusing on. With that said, I guess part two of the question of what other companies are jumping on board the student athlete engagement. I can say for ourselves, we have partnerships with Wells Fargo, we have partnerships with Kellogg's, we have partnerships with New York Life, and the traditional ones. I'll bang the drum for Nike and for Visa. They are the forefront of this mission. And they are way far out from other companies. But with that being said, we have a new era of college athletics now, with NIL being passed through. The guardrails that necessarily were there for companies to talk to student athletes at a younger age, at a younger year, for a variety of different relationships is gone. So it's more opportunities for student athletes to find out about companies, to engage with companies, to have different internship opportunities that might not look like traditional internship opportunities. But there is a large swath of companies that now student athlete transition, student athlete welfare, student athlete futures are in the spotlight quite a bit now, which is a positive thing for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely opening the marketplace and the athletes to collaborate more together. Cody, I do have a follow-up question on everything that you have said, and I'm curious if you also see more mid-size or startup or smaller structure also now starting to be interested in recruiting athlete and possibly being able to do that through things like your platforms.
Absolutely. And the environment lends itself to that. So a startup company, as you guys know, there's even startups within large companies. For example, the cohort that you guys were a part of was generally new. So you're just trying to figure some stuff out during that cohort and during that beginning. But as those small and medium-sized companies are starting to progress, an athlete fits perfect in that, because we generally are in places of pressure constantly every single day. Our whole entire schedule is surrounded by that. And practice is actually set up that way to have the most pressure on you at those certain points, and to fail and to find that failure and then move forward. So we're seeing that the smaller companies and the mid-sized companies that might not have had access to, let's just be honest, the big four are usually at every single career fair on every single campus. And Joe's new startup that's going to revolutionize social media is not necessarily there. However, now he has access to finding that talent to those student athletes, and on the vice versa, those student athletes now have access to see, hey, what's Joe's idea, and who's he trying to hire for, and what is he trying to hire for? And to tell you the truth, is this something that I've never thought about, but I love the idea and I love the opportunity and I want to jump into that? Really, the exposure that we're trying to provide for the student athlete and for the companies is boiled down to education and opportunity. And you're completely right. With more exposure, with more education, those opportunities from all different sides of the business are becoming more relevant.
Fantastic. And I have a question more for all of you now is how can athletes market themselves differently or better perhaps than the rest of the student in college or post college? Is there an advantage of being an athlete, and how can we showcase that, whether it's for a specific program within a company or just for a generic job offer? What's your opinion on that for all of you guys? Shel, do you want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, I think just naturally student athletes stand out. I mean, I remember when, being at Texas Tech, like we were a whole community ourselves, but I think for us, we're always a walking billboard. We're always in the spotlight, and we're always having to prove, to ourselves and people that we're capable. There's this mindset that we have to break through, that athletes are actually smart and we're not just jocks. And so I think carrying ourselves in that way and representing ourselves in that way all of the time is very helpful. So when it comes to positions like this, it always helps, when you're applying for positions and stuff like that.
Do you feel that this could be a drawback as well? And that sometimes that would be more to your disadvantage? Kristen, Shel, any of you? Yep.
Go ahead. Yeah. Oh, I thought somebody.
No, I was just. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Chelle.
Go ahead, Mariya.
I was just going to say, I feel like, and I definitely experienced this when I was first coming out of, sports and the Olympics and just trying to, I feel like just getting your foot in the door sometimes can be the most challenging part, when like you're applying for jobs and your resume doesn't have like internship, this and that. So compared to somebody who's a non-athlete, like just getting the interview, I feel like can be the most challenging part. But once you get in there and you are able to talk about the skills that you've gained, in sports, and how you don't necessarily need like on paper work experience to have those skills, like you in an interview setting, you can talk about all of that. But it's like, okay, what do you do with your resume, and how do you still basically like quantify your athletic experience and put it in like business terms? And to be honest, like I still don't have that completely figured out. I think like we're learning as we go, and hopefully then we can kind of pass on that knowledge to the next generation of athletes going through that, that process. But yeah, I think the initial step of getting the conversation started is the most challenging part, which is where your network comes into play. And that's the best resource you can have to getting that first conversation.
Absolutely. And I was just going to say that, because you don't have a resume that fits into any boxes, and certainly that will satisfy the different software that are now in resume kind of analysis for companies. So using your network to connect with different people and different opportunities seems to be more the way to go for athlete. Is this something that you observe, Cody, as well? Athlete not fitting in boxes?
Yes, absolutely. And I think we touched on a very important term when we talking about opportunities in the resume and such, is the community. And I believe, and I've had this happen to me quite a bit. The network and community that I necessarily deal with in a business sense, in every sense, knows the intangibles of a student athlete. It's quite apparent. So the network, everyone says, hey, your network is your net worth, and I highly agree with that. So with that being said, on the resume side of things, the one little pet peeve that I had that I think student athletes don't give themselves enough credit for is they'll use the generic, Cody Ferraro is a leader, detail oriented, and just throw out these very generic terms, but not have anything tied to it, because they don't necessarily tie those terms back to their career. So just for example, I've asked this on an interview question. Okay, what makes you detail oriented? Give me a past experience that can tell me that you're detail oriented. And they kind of, froze a little bit. And I could even answer that question for them. Did you touch the line every single time that you were told to do a sprint? Yes, and it's a very, very detailed that you did, because the whole entire rest of your team was depending on you. So really baking into these student athletes that everything that you do as a student athlete, and every single struggle, every single little thing can translate into the business world in a very big way, is something that I think needs to be kind of yelled from the mountaintops quite a bit more, and really capitalized on as a student athlete goes into their next transition phase.
Cody, this is so true. And I really like the example that you use, because I think a lot of athletes have this idea that they have nothing to show for when they get to the marketplace and they've finished with their career. They see the gaps, they see the things they don't have. But I think it's hard for them to realize what they do have. And I would encourage everybody to actually dive in completely on what they have and go the opposite ways. How can you sell yourself even more in that amazing experience and forget about what you have not done, and really just focus on that and show off your strengths and really reinforce that message? Because this is what makes you different. And at this point in time, you want to stand out. And it's not a bad thing to stand out, but I see a lot of athletes just trying to tame a little bit of their career and trying to fit in to the next step. Kristen, I do have a question for you on specifically the program that you and Chelle have been through, and Mariya as well. I'd like to learn more. How do you think these programs have benefited you? What maybe you have received that other new recruits have not had? Can you tell us a little bit about how that worked at Nike and some example?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely has opened my eyes to what the corporate world is. And there are a lot of similarities to sports and professional sports in the corporate world. And I think this program has been able to open our eyes to what are we capable of doing. Shel alluded to it earlier about being leaders. When we were leaders on the court, we can do the same thing when we're in corporate. We just need to learn maybe a little bit more of this area or that area. But there's so much that we can take from our days as athletes and really funnel it into making what we want our career to do in the future. But I will say one of the big keys, and it kind of goes back to the question that you asked earlier about what we can do. I would say somebody told me at Nike that when you come in to any situation, you are your own agent. And I was like, what? This is crazy. Are you serious? And it is. You need to network. You need to show up for those interviews like you are the best thing. You go into the interview having them need you instead of you wanting them. If you come in with the right mindset, which we all know how to do, we all know how to do mental preparation, that will help you in your next role or career, whatever that will be.
Shel, anything you want to add?
Kristen's doing a great job, but no, that's true. I think it's just also understanding that our careers will come to an end one day. And I think that's a lot of misstep that athletes have. We think that we're going to play the sport forever. So really just when you know that you're coming up on the end of your career, or knowing that it's going to take place, like really just honing in on the skill sets that you need to develop. Like if it's leadership, see how you can be a better leader on your team. If it's accountability, holding your teammates accountable. If it's, working better as teammates, taking on those responsibilities, knowing that, again, like everyone says, those skills are going to transfer. But I think it's just putting yourself in situations to where you can, improve the skill sets that you need to improve, but also strengthens the ones that you are naturally gifted at.
What I like about these rotational program is it really gives you the opportunity to learn about different things and start exploring the corporate world, which, you know, most athletes have no experience. But also for you to start getting a feel for your colleagues, the workplace, the bosses you may get, the different department you want to be in. And I'm curious to you, Mariya, if there are anything that, or any example that really surprised you as you embarked on that 4 rotations, and, you know, what was your biggest surprise, basically?
Gosh, I feel like it's tough. I mean, okay, maybe this is like personal to me, but I think in some ways, like I always thought, you know, people always say, oh, you know, corporate America is corporate America, and there's, you know, there's lots of red tape and this and that. But I think in my eyes, it was almost like glamorized in a way that, like, you know, going from a world where I'm training, you know, all day, every day, to thinking about like being like a business leader, like to me, that was so exciting. And I think getting into the corporate world, it's like, yes, there's so many opportunities to, you know, to influence decisions and to really make an impact. But also on the other side, it's like, you know, it's corporate America. It can be not so exciting at times. And there is lots of red tape, and there's great things about it, but then there's also some not great things about it. Like, you know, joining a big company, things are going to move really slow. So, you know, in certain areas that I wanted to make an impact, it's kind of hard to make the impact in the time that I want to make it in. And as athletes, we're like, okay, let's go, let's get it going. So I think that was a bit of a surprising thing, but I think the greatest thing about it, and Kristen and Shell, I'm not sure if you guys have experienced this, because I'm not sure exactly how the program works, but at Visa, you know, I was in the 3rd cohort, I believe. And now the 5th cohort has just started, but all of the associates who've gone through the program have stayed at Visa. We've had a few that have gone up to business school or, you know, taken jobs elsewhere. And really the community of athletes we've had, I mean, now we have, gosh, maybe 15 Olympians and Paralympians, and now we have 5 NFL athletes. It's like, that has been the coolest thing, to literally have people who are so similar to me in so many ways. No, they didn't do synchronized swimming. They did completely different sports, but we're all so similar. And we've all gone through this transition of being elite athletes to now being, you know, regular people working in corporate America. And like, I don't know, I can't describe like how cool it is to have a community of like-minded people, even though none of them are like in my immediate team. I don't work with them day to day, but just to have them like being in this company together and like going through the same things that I am has been really amazing. So it's cool for me to hear that other companies are also doing, you know, rotation programs for athletes. I think it's so cool. And I know somebody mentioned to me once, you know, because we do have the option of rolling off the program early or staying for all 4 rotations. And he was like, listen, do as many rotations as you can. When are you ever going to be able to like literally try out different jobs and not be committed to staying in that job? Like, if you don't like this rotation, well, you're done with it in 6 months. You can, you know, you'll go on to the next one. You're not forced to join that team if you don't like it. So like, what a cool experience to be able to do that. So that's what I've done. I've stayed for all 4 and, you know, tried to, you know, maximize the learning opportunities. But yeah, the community has been definitely the best part of the whole experience.
Absolutely. And someone from the previous panel actually said these type of programs, they're a way to educate you about the job, about the company. It might not be the job, but it's a job on the way to the job, and that's what you're looking for. Cody, I want to turn it to you and ask you if you have any statistics or input on those athletes who go on to work for companies. What is the feedback from companies? Are they positive about it? And do athletes tend to generally stick with it and it becomes a positive match?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think like the easiest statistic that everyone probably knows, Ernst & Young did a study about about 7 years ago. One of the biggest statistics that they came out with is that 65% of C-suite female executives were former student athletes. Everyone probably kind of knows that, but that's astounding. That's a big number, a large number. So with that being said, the average investment that a company makes in new hires is about $60,000, all said and done. If we're talking about insurance, training, all of that before they start getting a return on that investment of an employee. Student athletes are actually 60% more likely to stick with a role past that investment period. So with that being said, student athletes just are a great investment for a company right then and there. Because if you get down to the microeconomics of it, it makes sense to hire them just because of the investment that you made. With all of that being said, the loyalty that a student athlete necessarily has with a company is actually higher than an entry-level employee coming out of college. I believe, and there's no statistics surrounding this, I believe it's because of the team atmosphere that once a student athlete gets in there, one of the biggest things that keeps them, even at a university, is the folks around them and the team atmosphere, that the friendships that they make and the networks that they make on top of that. But with that being said, being able to adapt in certain situations is also a big thing on top of that. The stress levels aren't necessarily as high with a student athlete as it is with someone who's just coming out of university into a job, because change is something that constantly happens throughout a practice, throughout a career, throughout the whole entire student athlete experience, and they're comfortable with that. But that one statistic of 65 C-suite for female executives is telling, to say the least. And personally, and I'm kind of on one side here, I think it's going to increase, to tell you the truth. I really do. I think it's going to increase with the amount of opportunities and the exorbitance of opportunities, especially for females to progress within corporate America.
Well, and I think one of the point is that if you invest in student athletes or in athlete, you will get a return, because you have people that are used to be coached and want to learn. And if you invest in them, you'll get loyalty and reward in exchange. I think that's pretty telling. We all know that's going to happen. I imagine for all three of you, whether the experience was positive every rotation or not, you have received some education and support that was above and beyond what others have received, and that in itself is amazing. Now, I want to ask you a closing question to all of you, and is really for those athletes who want to either participate in a rotational program for Nike, Visa, or other companies, Ernst & Young, or use your platform, Cody, and be recruited by companies. Do you have one recommendation on how they can stand out or be on their best side to make it? Who wants to get started?
Yeah, I would just say, everything that Cody said is spot on. And what Kristen said earlier is you have to be an advocate for yourself. Like, I think it's just like anything you've done in your life. You have to set goals. You have to align with companies who are going to meet those goals, short-term and long-term. It's just really making a decision on the career path that you want to take. And if that company is able to not just have you come in, because naturally as athletes, we want to go in, we want to improve our team and make it better. And we're committed and dedicated to doing that. But I think the other side of that is you have to feel that the company is giving you everything that you need to culture and nurture your growth as well. So I think that's probably the most important thing, is advocating for yourself. Nobody's going to do it better than you. Nobody can speak on your behalf the way you can speak on your behalf. No one can show up the way you're going to show up, and do it with confidence. Again, athletes are just, we're sometimes put in a box and not really thought of at that, but understanding that we have so many strengths and so many talents, and that goes beyond the court or the field or the turf or anything like that. And it's just really embracing that and being confident in your own abilities.
Anybody want to add to that? Mariya, Cody, Mariya?
Yeah, I'll speak on just the Visa experience specifically. I know everyone says the importance of the network, and using your network. Well, for the visa process specifically, they make it pretty easy to connect with like current associates or graduates of the program within visa. They have an info session with some of the current associates talking about the program. For me, that was absolutely the most valuable part of those sessions, is being able to connect with these athletes who are already in the program and to go through the interview process knowing what to expect. And so I basically connected with several people who were already in the program, and literally asked them, like, how do I prepare for these interviews? And that, like, the advice I got from them, I felt so prepared going into the interviews. And now that I'm on the other side of it, I know, like, when people reach out to me who are applying for the program, I'll give them like exactly what they should prepare for. And not to brag, but I've talked with four different people in applying the last 2 years. All four of them have been accepted to the program. Not to toot my own horn, but like, find the people who you might know within those companies, especially if they're athletes, and have them kind of guide you through what to expect for the interview process. Like, that to me was like the biggest tip, specifically for Visa's program that I could give. But I'm sure you could apply it to any other interview process at any company as well.
Absolutely. And it's a great advice, because you will find someone within that company who is a former athlete, who is going to be willing to talk to you and help you out. Kristen, anything you want to add to this?
Wow, they've done a great job, but I really like the advocate for yourself. So going out on social media, finding people, finding the company, like Shel was saying, that really speaks to you, and then figure out who is in that organization, and whether they're a student athlete or not. Just reach out, put yourself out there. We're all used to taking risk, and now you're taking a risk for yourself. So put yourself out there. You have so much more to offer than, what Cody was saying earlier, is we have all these little lists that we have, that goal-oriented and details, all these things, but there's so much more that you bring that you need these corporations and these people to know about. So go and do it yourself.
And Kristen. Cody, one last word.
I can't beat those three. I think we covered every basis on this. But it's the preparation that they've been through and that we've been through as student athletes sets us up for success in the future. And it's not just a lost cause that your career is over. It's just a building block to the next stage of your life, and bring those lessons that you learned, as we've mentioned quite a bit, to that next stage of your life, because those will be lessons that you're going to learn for the rest of your life, and they're going to keep coming up and keep coming up. But as long as you have a reference point to bring that back to, you're going to succeed when those challenges and those lessons come up again.
I love it, you guys. Thank you so much for your input. What I take from this is really, self-advocate, prepare. As we know, it's always super important. Connect with people that can help you be better prepared, but also while you're in the job. And then invest, and don't be shy to use your career as an asset to open the door, but for after as well. So thank you so much for your time this morning, your contribution. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everybody who joined us. We actually going to come back in 30 minutes for the last session of the summit, which will be on identity and athletic retirement. So join us in 30 minutes. Guys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, and see you later, everybody. Thank you.